Well, everybody, welcome to the Trick Plastic Joe Goes TV on this beautiful Labor Day weekend, Monday, September 4th, right? Yes. Happy Labor Day. Like some of you, I know, and not all of you, I'm off today from work, and so I'm really thankful to be here with you, coaching millennials, Gen Z, young adults in issues of being the best version of yourself, limiting beliefs, overcoming mental obstacles, personal development, and mindset coaching. Things that I have learned along my journey when I was a young man and then now as an adult. Please let me know if the audio is good. I've been having a little bit of problems with this box that I have here. The mic is good, but anyway, hopefully everything sounds amazing. So, sharing with a lot of young people, I was thinking about my passion for young adults. I've always been I don't know if discouraged to do what I love to do, but in some ways, maybe it's been me, as usual, right? It's us, that I've been, I guess, somewhat afraid, I guess. Is that even the right thing that I'm thinking? To focus only on young people. Because young people tell me that they don't have a lot of money or there's not a lot of income in that area, all these negative things. First, I've never really wanted to coach young people to make money. It's just simply who I am. Now, of course, I charge because coaching anyone is, I think, profitable for the person on the other side of the coaching. Hopefully their lives are transformed, and I've seen that happen. But anyway, my point is that I stopped listening to that advice or to my own negative beliefs a long time ago. So now really, I have people of all ages that I coach, but truly where I find myself flowing and being in my zone of genius, as I call it, is working with young people. Whether it's coaching them one-on-one this way, or whether it's working with them in the church environment, or whether it's working in music together with them, worship especially, of course. All those areas, mental health with young adults, relationship issues, church leadership, music leadership. But I think a lot of it it's behind the scenes. It's not the mechanics of, let's say, music or worship or preaching. It's more the mindset. What do you do when your dreams aren't coming true? What do you do when you don't have everything that you long for? What do you do when you face high levels of anxiety? You break up with your girlfriend. You feel worthless. You feel like you're not at the place where you want to be, and especially with social media and all that young people experience in terms of pressure from outside sources to be a millionaire by age 19. I'm working with a lot of young people that have these heavy burdens upon themselves, on their minds. And then, of course, you have generational differences between them and parents. You have church as obviously a beautiful thing, but sometimes church can be it can be not very helpful when it comes to mental health or emotional problems, because we mostly hear that we should basically suck it up and pray. And so, which of course I think it's wonderful to do both, but you have a need for many of us to be more nuanced, to be more in the gray areas of life where we are praying, we are doing all the right things, we love our parents, we are seeking support, but our minds get in the way, our thoughts get in the way. I wrote a song a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, called My Thoughts Get in the Way. I think, what's it called? Oh, it's called The Train. Yeah, I remember I was on my way to my job at USC. I was working at the church on campus. And I remember every time I would be waiting for the train, I would feel so depressed that I had to do this, that it was so hard, that why am I here, Lord? I want to be a pastor, and yet I'm doing this, and all these negative beliefs. And I remember writing this song called The Train, as I waited for the train, the Blue Line, about how really life was great. It was just my thoughts getting in the way. And that's the ongoing burden, I think, for at least young adults that I face, that I feel is what young people are facing today, is our mental game, is our ability to stay focused and to find excuse me, our way once again, even when we are facing some of these obstacles. Excuse me. And so I think we just have to be aware of our own weaknesses, our own strengths, our own issues, our own mental games, as I said, our own mental habits, and some of the things that perhaps sometimes affect us, excuse me, and to really be someone who is strong no matter what, but that has the support of a mentor, of a coach, of a therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I am working on my doctorate, but not in this area. But my point is that a coach sometimes is what we need, because a pastor is amazing, your parents, your friends, even maybe a therapist, but you have someone like me who's kind of in the middle of all those things, who understands you, who is trained, who most of all, as I said, understands you, and who has tools that I have acquired, excuse me, along my journey to help first myself to overcome these obstacles. And this is a daily fight for me and a journey, but also that has the love, the empathy, the compassion, and the skills to help you. And so I'm currently helping a few people in this area, and it's a joy. Obviously, I can't get into details, but it's been just a wonderful journey to help young adults, millennials, some people at midlife as well. That's another area that I have a passion for, obviously, again, because of my own midlife. I don't know if it was a crisis. Sure, you could call it a crisis, but definitely I would say it's a midlife change, transition from A to B, and now what? And I don't want to do A, but I don't know what B looks like, etc. So one of the tools, I wanted to share some of the tools that I use to coach and what I've drawn from, of course, first of all, the scriptures. Second, of course, my life. But then some of these books like Hope and Help for Your Nerves. This is an amazing book. I would say it's one of the ones that has transformed me the most. I actually was on Twitter the other day or whatever, last year, and I saw Lecrae, the rappers, shout out to Christian rap, talk about this book. I got it, and it's been transformational. Amazing. The other one that I got a long time ago, I believe this one is by David Hart. Yes. It was called Adrenaline and Stress. And another amazing book that helped me understand from a psychological and biological point of view. Excuse me really quick. I'm going to do something here. Just close this door. It helped me understand in a very biological way what happens to the brain when it's under stress. All of the oxytocin, all of the, not Claritin, what's the other word? All of the, oxytocin is positive, but the, what's it called? My goodness. Not let's see, negative, chemical response. What is that in brain chemistry? It's called serotonin is what's missing often, but then what happens when we're in stress is something else is created, right? What's that called? It starts with a C. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Cortisol. Thank you. I just saw that here. And so I wanted to go over, speaking of cortisol, I wanted to go over some of these tools and some of these graphs back to some of the lessons and skills that I've been things that I've been learning that I think will help us understand what happens to the brain when there is a chemical imbalance. We're not talking again about prayer and Holy Spirit alone. Of course, we're talking though about the scientific and I guess I'm a big believer in both, how you need both mind and spirit when it comes to overcoming some of these things. So This is from Healthline. Chemical imbalance in the brain, what you should know. Evidence suggests an imbalance in brain chemicals does not cause any specific mental health condition. The causes of conditions like depression are likely more nuanced. And so it's not just simply that you're missing some oxytocin or missing some, whatever the other one is, serotonin. It's that there's a sense of health, a sense of nurture and nature. Maybe you're predisposed. I believe that I am predisposed to anxiety from things that I've learned in my family tree. And then second, sure, it's also my environment. It's nurture, the things that I went through. And so let's read through some of this. It says, a chemical imbalance in the brain is said to occur when the brain has either excessive or insufficient chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. That's something that, by the way, another book, let me go get it. It's another powerful book that I'm reading by Dr. Joe Dispenza, I believe. Joe or Jim? I think it's Joe. Yes, Joe Dispenza is the name of the book. So let me actually go to the big screen here so you can see it a little better. So here it is. This is called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Pretty amazing book. How common people are doing the uncommon. New York Times best-selling author. Incredible book. It talks about exactly what I just read here about neurotransmitters and how when we are telling ourselves negative thoughts, I'm overweight, I'm broke, I'm sad, whatever. There are neurotransmitters, like it says here, that are triggered, that then keep us in that negative place. And all we have to do is to basically retrain our brains through the power of the Holy Spirit, through the Word of God, and through these tools. What is a chemical imbalance? Neurotransmitters are natural chemicals that help ease the communication between your nerve cells. Examples include norepinephrine and serotonin. Some people claim that mental health conditions, depression, anxiety, result from a chemical imbalance. A hypothesis is called the chemical imbalance. However, this is very important. I read another book called The Myth of Mental Health. I do believe that mental health can be overdone, overplayed, or maybe it can be healed a lot faster than we think. Not always, but you have to also know kind of what's out there, and sometimes this can be overdone. And so, but again, we're here to help everyone. However, it is important to note that the chemical imbalance theory requires revision. Communication between neurons in the brain may play a role in the processes underlying depression. However, much research states that an imbalance of neurotransmitters does not cause depression. The brain's impact on depression. So there's a lot of amazing stuff here. You can, maybe I'll put this in the chat here. So let's see, how do I even do that? I think I have to log into this here. Let me see here if I can do that for you guys. Put this particular article in the chat. I have to log into my chat feature and all that stuff. Okay, let's see here. I'll do this for you guys because I care. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this, but it is what it is. Let's see here. Is it logging in yet? Is that the right password? Maybe not. It's still trying to log in. What's going on here? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, maybe. Let's see. Select all the squares, all that stuff, right? Select all the squares, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my goodness. Come on now. All that and the password's still not correct. Now it's bridges. Okay, bridges. I don't see any bridges. There's a couple of bridges right there. Okay. That's not a bridge. Nope. Okay, never mind. It's not letting me. I don't know the password. So anyway, you can look it up. Healthline, and it's called Chemical Imbalance in the Brain. What you should know. I believe this was updated April of this year. So let me go through this chart. I love drawings. So studies have observed changes in these parts of the brain and the neurotransmitters within them in people with depression and other mental health conditions. However, it's unclear if these alterations cause conditions of depression or result from them. And so it's like chicken or the egg. But here's some of the things that many of the people that I coach, and myself included, have felt over the years. And so trouble with memory, decisions, preoccupation with death, feelings of sadness, especially when it comes to depression. I don't deal with depression. Mine is more anxiety, but this is, again, what might happen. And weight fluctuations, constricted blood vessels, increased pain, lower interest in sex, fatigue, weakened immune system. Those are all the things that depression either brings about or vice versa. One thing that I know, and I think that's basically, the amygdala is very important to study. It's where all this stuff comes out of. Neurotransmitters facilitate communication between nerve cells and target cells. Studies have linked changes in neurotransmitter activity with symptoms of depression. There's a lot of stuff in here that I won't go over right now. Proposed causes, again, nurture nature. A test to identify chemical imbalance, person genetic, 37%. So only 37% may it be genetic. So it's not necessarily something that you inherit. Diagnosing, DSM-5. How does it treat it? Dopamine, serotonin, which is basically antidepressants, etc. SSRIs, all these things. Psychotherapy, coaching, cognitive behavioral, CBT as they call it, psychodynamic. All those are things that I advocate. Very, very important. Don't hesitate to find help if you're experiencing these signs. Contact a health professional. So all this is just very powerful stuff that is very true. And as I said, that we as people of God need to become more aware of, because it's the combination, as I said, of mind and spirit, of spirit and soul, of mind and of body. I love, my father-in-law was the first one. He was a doctor of ministry, a conservative man, rest in peace, Dad Baker. And he was the first one who told me that therapy was important. It was his wife, my mother-in-law, who first recommended that I see a therapist back in my, I think, early 30s, mid-30s, after I lost my grandmother, I believe. She went through therapy. My father-in-law wasn't a big therapy guy, so not everyone is. He was more of a kind of a thinker and do it on my own, do it yourself kind of guy. And so do males tend to go to therapy? Not often. Nope, not often. And that stigma, that's cultural, especially Hispanic males. But he was the first one who told me about some of these books, and especially when it comes to the need for therapy and how Jesus, he would tell me, this is my point, grew in wisdom and stature. And so I love that verse because I think it's in Luke 2, because even Jesus grew in wisdom. So that's physical stuff. Actually, no, that's mental. Right? His knowledge, he grew in that, meaning that he didn't have it all together, quote unquote, even though he was God, and stature. And so you have the spiritual part and you have the physical part. And so I always have loved that verse to those who are against psychotherapy, coaching, counseling, or who maybe have had a bad experience with it. It didn't work for me. It's just, I don't know, a tool of the devil, or all you need is prayer and the altar call. Powerful things. I do believe that God does heal some people miraculously, but for the rest of us, it is a process. My therapist, who is a Christian man, who has an MDiv, who's an amazing man of God, he and I laugh at people who come into his office, Christians, well-meaning, that want a magic pill. And he's saying, all you can do is manage it unless God does a miracle. And so we always, of course, leave room for God, absolutely, as far as a miraculous healing. But for the rest of us, myself included, and I pray for a miracle every day. It is a process. It is a managing. It is a dealing with it, learning how to manage it so it doesn't ruin your life or doesn't really get in the way of God's purpose for your life. Has it affected me in my 50 years on this earth? Of course it has. Has it kept me from maybe accomplishing more? Perhaps. Have I overcome? Yes, absolutely. Have I gotten up every time I've fallen? Absolutely. Do I have a beautiful life in spite of? Absolutely. How? Jesus, his word, worship, and therapy, these tools, coaching, spiritual advising, spiritual direction, seeking the advice of others, no doubt. And I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands with therapists and coaches. And all of that has been truly, truly healing, as well as the love of my wife. And so I cannot even cannot even undermine or understate, or I cannot even, what's the word I guess I'm looking for? I cannot speak enough about the amazing love of my wife and her support for me that has been healing. I would say the number one healing next to only Jesus. I cannot say enough, I guess is what I was trying to say, for my wife. And so if you don't have a husband or wife, you're a young adult, you have your parents, you have maybe friends, you have a pastor, you have church, you do. You have to really evaluate how your life is going. I think that the biggest problem with church as a place of healing is that most of us, and I did this for many years, all we do at church is do. Because that's what churches need. They need soldiers for Jesus. They need us to do more and more and more. And inside, 40% are the statistics are hurting inside with some of these topics. And we need to pause. We need to say, I can't. We need to say no more. We need to say no mas. We need to say, I need help. We need to maybe step back. We need to perhaps take a break. We need to shake things up. I don't know. But you have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Very important, so that you can persevere and look at the scriptures. Jonah was in the gutter for 3 days. Elijah, of course, the classic. Jesus himself, why have you forsaken me? David, why so downcast, O my soul? Jeremiah, the crying prophet. Obviously, Thomas, who doubted. Peter, who denied Jesus. All the disciples who went back to their jobs after Jesus died. They had given up on the whole thing. And so we have all these human experiences in the Bible. And by the way, these are all men. And so men, the statistics are very clear. Men go to therapy, I don't know if it's 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100, at a very low rate. We're talking about 10%, 20%, where maybe 40 or 50% of us need it. And so because of the same things, church, stigma, time, I got it, my dad didn't do that, my mom says that's for locals, you name it. I've had so many people, and even in the last few years, that have told me I need this, but then back out because of the same things. I got it, I'm going to serve, I'm going to do more, I'm going to work out, I'm going to work more hours, give, serve more, double down on doing, and you forget the being. And those people continue to basically go in circles. Every 6 months, every year, they go back to the same habits without any help. And they don't change their habits. I've been reading, as I said, this book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about how in order for us to change our mindset, our thoughts, create our feelings, we have to change our thoughts. And sometimes that means we have to change our behavior. And so if I want to be in shape, my thoughts say, oh, I'm okay. My thoughts say, oh, well, I'm 50. That's just kind of how it is. But my heart wants to look better, be in shape, etc. Well, the feelings will never come. The thought may never come. I have to act, or I have to change my thoughts and say, I need to get up. I need to go for a walk. I have my home gym. I need to use it, dust it off literally, and start boxing, jump roping, whatever. Oh, but my knee hurts, which it does. Oh, my gut hurts. Yes. Guess what's going to help those things? Being in the gym, going for a walk, getting on a treadmill, strengthening my body. How do we do that? It's not that we don't know what to do or don't have the membership or don't have time. It's that our thoughts create our feelings. Our thoughts tell us, I don't want to, I can't, I'm okay, I should. Our feelings then, they say, well, what's the point? Or you'll do it tomorrow. And then our actions and results remain the same. Our habits then get created. And that's the problem. When habits kick in, we all love comfort. We all want comfortable habits. I have this job. I'm teaching math at a school here in Costa Mesa. And every Sunday or Friday, I have to put in grades and update this website. I don't want to do that. I want just to teach and to be with kids. But I have to create habits to communicate well with parents, to communicate and do basically my job. And so I have to, and I have. I've set up reminders for myself. I have these little to-dos. And I think I missed once, but I haven't missed. I've been doing that pretty consistently the last few months. And I'm not a details person. I'm a creative. I'm a talker. I'm a relational being. All that stuff, but I have to set these habits that are not natural to me so that I can continue to do what I love to do. That's the only way to really fix our problems, is to act differently, and then our thoughts and our feelings will catch up. Sometimes we have to reverse engineer it. And so even though, let me actually, I want to write some of these things down for you in case you need a little bit of, I don't know, just some visuals here. How do we do this? Let's see. Let's do it in Keynote, right? I love Keynote. Who doesn't love Keynote? Just write a little bit of this neuroscience and some of these things that I'm talking about regarding better habits and all that stuff. So let me see here if it'll just take me a second to get all this going. So especially the idea of thoughts create feelings. That's been a very, 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 very powerful, just, I don't know, a tool or just a mindset shift, that it's not about, I don't know, laziness or any of that. It's really about shifting our thinking and the process that we have to go through. So let's see, changing our mindset. I'm just putting a little presentation together for us. Might as well, right? Okay, and so let's see here. How do we add another slide? Why isn't this easier? Insert slide. Why isn't there a plus or something? Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, so let's do here. Let's see here. Add slide. I'm going to do some bullets. I think this is the bullets. Okay, so here we go. So thoughts, feelings, and then it's actions, or actually habits, you could say. And then you could say results. Okay, so this is very powerful. This is what Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches. Also, one of my coaches of Life Coaching Academy that I follow online, she talks about this, Brooke Castillo, this very, very powerful tool. So this is super simple, but I'm going to make this a little bigger for you guys. Let's see, text. There we go. Okay, so let's check this out. So this is a little thing I just put together, changing our mindset, right? And just a little bit of training here for you on this beautiful Labor Day. Thoughts create our feelings, and these all lead into the next thing. So our thoughts then create our feelings. Our feelings then create actions or habits, and then our habits create results. And one that Brooke Castillo, my coach, what's going on here? How come this isn't updating? She actually has something, I don't think it's as useful. She has something called circumstances. And then she goes into the rest. Okay, let me make this box bigger so we see results down there. Okay, so she starts with this, circumstances. Then that creates a thought, or we have a thought about our circumstances, which then, boom, it's the snowball effect. It creates feelings, actions, habits, results. This happens in milliseconds, if you've already noticed. So I remember months ago, I blew out a tire. Like I was going 70 miles an hour and my tire just exploded into like a million pieces. I knew that was stressful and dangerous, but my thoughts weren't necessarily negative. So then, so my thoughts were, okay, get it done. My feelings, I wasn't really scared. I was in the middle of the freeway, so I called the tow truck. Actions, results, got my tire fixed. But here's what happened. The next day, when I went and got a new tire, or the next week, the guy at the shop said, man, you could have died. And so when he said that, because I already have trauma around dying and these things that I went through, and not me, but family members, when he said that, the circumstance was the mechanic, right? The tire guy said something. He just said words. He wasn't saying anything about me. He was just talking. He sees this all the time, and he was just commenting. But that circumstance created these horrible, and I literally had like panic attacks for the next few days. I had already gone through the whole thing. I was looking back, and that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza says, that most of our suffering is our mind looking back. He says that 90% of our suffering is our mind looking backwards. And then, I don't know, something like 10% or something, I don't know if it's 90-10 or 80-20 of our anxiety is the mind thinking forward. And so, but when it comes to my tire story, when he said that, my thoughts went back. I thought, man, I could have died. I wonder if I'm going to die this next week. My feelings were fear and anxiety. My actions, I just kept giving into it. I wouldn't maybe drive as fast. I don't know. The results was I was a mess. And so now instead, the first time, circumstances, same thing, right? I actually had the blown tire. My thoughts were, okay, this is a bummer. I'm going to call the tow truck. Feelings was, okay, I'm fine. I parked to the side of the road. I mean, the freeway. Yeah, there are all these crazy people driving by, but I wasn't afraid. My wife actually was behind me pretty much. She came and she hung out with me waiting for the tow truck. Feelings were, okay, this is not fun, but I'm okay. Actions, guy came, results, everything was fine. I wasn't feeling anything post the blown tire. But the next day, as I said, what happened? What changed? Well, as I said, I've had 2 or 3 circumstances or things in my life where I saw family members die and go through some challenging health issues. My father, my grandmother, and my grandfather. People that I love, of course. And that traumatized me because I was young when these things happen. And when you are dependent upon your parents, especially my grandma, I would say primarily number one, my grandmother, then, and as a man, my father, I'm kind of getting to the age where he died. These things can play with me if I let them. And I don't often think about that. But my point is when he said you could have died, boom, it triggered me back to those memories. My thoughts in milliseconds, were all negative, all fear. My feelings, my body was sweating, my breathing was shallow, my shoulders were tense. I'm sure my guts were doing this, constricting. My actions were, I was not well. I felt horrible. And the results were, well, I'm sure it took me, a week or 2 to decompress from the one statement that this random guy, no fault to him, said to me. So this is very powerful, how the same event in 2 different days. Oh, I like those clouds that are moving. That's kind of fun, huh? Didn't even notice that. Now, how do you control? What could I have done differently when he said what he said? So circumstances were the same, right? I took my car in because I had a blown tire. He said what he said. Now, at that moment of thoughts, I probably went through this, but what I could have said is gone back to the beginning and thought, wait a minute. The reason why I'm feeling this way is because I'm connecting this to my grandma and to blah, blah, blah. That's not what happened to them. None of them died on the freeway due to a blown tire. I could then begin to laugh and I can go back and forth on my thoughts and feelings, talking to myself and saying, okay, it makes sense. I understand why. This is a very strong emotion, but it's not true. It makes sense why I have that strong feeling. I understand you. I support you. I love you, David. Talking to my 11-year-old self. All the things that CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, teaches us to talk to our younger self that went through that trauma when my grandma died. I wasn't 11. I was in my 30s. But when my grandfather had an incident, I was 10. My father passed away. Anyway, so I speak to my younger self and I say, okay, young David, I understand why you feel this way, but it's not true. First, you're not even driving at this moment. Second, your car is fine. But I'm afraid, my feelings, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that that's going to happen to me. It happened, tragic things happen in life. Yeah, they happen, but they're not happening to you. And they didn't happen when the tire actually blew out. It's just a guy who said that and it's triggering you back. Oh, okay. Does that make sense, young David? It makes sense. Wow. So you keep telling yourself the truth. Like my wife always says, tell yourself the truth. Philippians 4, whatever is true, think on these things, tell yourself the truth. And that's Philippians 4, right? Whatever is true, whatever is lovely, think on these things. Maybe make this a little smaller so it fits a little better. Boop, 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 boop. And I love teaching. I really do. I love this kind of stuff. And so you got to keep going back and forth until that feeling calms down. And that's what my therapist always says. You got to calm the feeling down, lead. I actually have my notes here from my last session. I'd like to write notes, take notes. If you're not a note taker, that's okay. He said you have to lead yourself. You have to lead your emotions, disrupt your emotions. You have to disrupt that cycle. And you have to lead yourself. It's like David says, why so downcast, O my soul? Put your hope in God. Why so downcast, O my soul? I will put my hope in God, my strength and my deliverer. That's so powerful. You have to have right thinking to tell yourself the truth. Now, sometimes I don't want to tell myself the truth. I want to live the lie because of many reasons. Mostly because there's a sense of comfort and of stability in being the anxious us. It's kind of a codependency thing. We like to be dependent upon other people. I like it when Rochelle comforts me and soothes me and gives me a hug and brings me hot tea at night. Who doesn't? It's like we go back to being 8. We want our mommies. But as adults, we can't afford to do that. We have to learn how to tell ourselves the truth on our own. We can't always rely on somebody else. And then the feelings begin to calm down. And then the actions is you drive the car and you're not afraid. You go to work the next day. You get there on time. You're not thinking of how you're going to die on the freeway. And the result is you get that raise. How about that? So that's just a very simple but powerful tool that I teach and I walk people through. It's very simple, very powerful. But as I said, I have found it to be very, very life-changing to me and to many people that I coach, especially millennials, young adults, Gen Z, as well as people at midlife. So that's what I have for now. A little bit of coaching. It's kind of the stuff that I do when I coach people of all different ages. Mostly, as I said, young adults and people at midlife. That is really my sweet spot. Why midlife makes sense. I'm at midlife, just went through it. And then young people, because that's when I first experienced panic attacks and I didn't have the tools that I have now. And so I have a huge heart for young leaders, high achieving leaders that need a little check-in with their mindset, they're Christians, they love God, they have all that, they're doing a bunch of stuff, they have a parent, maybe they've been to therapy, but they need kind of a third place. I am that third place that's safe and can help you. Now I offer different packages. I offer 2. Actually, I used to do 2. Now I'm doing 1 free 90-minute session so you can see what this is like and how it's going to help you. I am sure that it's going to help you. And then I do a monthly 90-minute call through Zoom. I don't do any in person, all through Zoom or FaceTime or whatever it may be, Messenger. And we meet once a month for 90 minutes, so an hour and a half, for $1,000. And that is, as I said, meet once a month for 90 minutes, once a month for $1,000. I do have a discount for young adults, anyone 25 and under. I do $750 a month. And if you are in some sort of desperate need, then we can talk. But it's a high price for a high reward. And I am thinking of offering maybe like a winter or Thanksgiving kind of break, maybe 50% off to make it only $500 a month for one session, 90 minutes. But that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm also offering a mastermind where I do group coaching for Christian leaders, whether it's in worship, production, preaching, Bible study leadership, discipleship coaches, discipleship leaders, home Bible study leaders, all of those amazing leaders of the church, especially young ones who need a place to get support. I offer that as well for $1,000 a month. And that's a weekly Zoom meeting. I don't do any live. Everything is online. A weekly meeting for $1,000 a month for a weekly 90-minute session. And I can help young leaders to overcome some of their problems, and they maybe feel uncertain about asking their elders or their team or their staff. They don't have maybe someone who's safe and empathic and kind that they can talk to, or they don't have the time. So we can do this on Zoom every week, 90 minutes for $1,000 a month, or we can do the one-on-one coaching, which is also $1,000 a month, and that is once a month for 90 minutes. We could do every week if that's the best thing for you, and we can adjust the prices. But those are some of the basics. So I hope that all of that finds you well. Thank you again for being here. Have a great rest of this Labor Day, and I will see you next time. Adios.